You don't have to be a millionaire to live in abundance. I'm not a millionaire, I haven't traveled outside my continent, and I have to live simply to be able to afford to be a homeschool mom. But in so many ways, I feel like I'm living my dream life. I'm living my ideal life. And it's not all about just viewing life differently, but actual habits and practical changes you can make to start to view and live your life through a different lens. A lens of abundance. For those of you who are new, hey, I'm Yessie. On this channel, we talk about minimalism, but through a holistic lens. That is, we don't just talk about removing physical items from our life, even though that is a part of it, but it's also about the things that we hold in here and the mindset shifts that we need to take to be able to view life through an abundant lens. So that way, minimalism becomes something that allows us to live a more fulfilling life, rather than it becoming a burden. So if you want to approach minimalism through this approach, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss when I post more content like this. But for today's video, I'm gonna share with you 12 minimalist mindset shifts that have helped improve my life and will hopefully be helpful for you. Okay, so starting out, the first one sounds like a simple one, but for me, it has really been a huge mindset shift. And it is to quit buying multiples or backups of stuff that I have loved. I definitely have done this in the past because through decluttering, I've kind of figured out the things that I do like, the things that I will buy more of, especially with consumables, a certain type of clothing that I know I like, that I kind of want as my uniform, as my staple. Then sometimes what I would do is I would buy backups of things. So that way, if the store didn't sell it anymore, if this goes bad, then I have a backup and then I can use that. And I would just like buy backups of anything, really. Well, the problem that came for me with this is that I was, without knowing it, adopting a scarcity mindset through that. I was telling myself the story that I might not be able to have that again, or I might not be able to afford that again. It's like a limiting belief without me actually saying it out loud that I can't afford something better. And I'll give this example because I have a pink Sperry's boat shoe that I really, really liked. And I bought a backup of that because when this one goes bad, I'll have another one, because sometimes you buy a certain shoe and then when you go to buy it again because you really liked it, they don't sell it anymore. What I've done to myself is basically say, well, Yessie, if this shoe that you really love isn't available anymore, you're telling yourself that you can't afford better, that you're not going to be able to have something better, that something better is not going to come out. So I think it was definitely a limiting belief for me, and it may not be the same for you. Maybe backups in certain cases are helpful, but I think I was kind of doing it overboard. I was doing it with lots of different things. Sometimes it's good. You might need some candles, like if in case the power goes out, or a little bit of emergency food if you live in like a hurricane area, lots of different things. You might need to stash away some things. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I just know that for me, I was doing it a lot, just things that weren't necessary. The second one is super important to me, and it is to use the nice things in your home. This applies to a lot of different things, whether it be that fine china that your grandma gave you, that you're worried you might break, that bracelet that your friend gave you that you really value, but you're just afraid to wear it because you don't want to like damage it, that dress that looks really nice, but you don't want to wear it in the house because it might get a stain, things like that. Using the nice things as a way of romanticizing your life. And I definitely want to make a separate video all about the different ways that I romanticize my life, because I definitely feel like they're kind of intertwined. Romanticizing your life and just viewing life in an abundance mindset, like it's really all about the little things that you do. So I definitely want like a separate video all about that. But this has been definitely one of the things that has helped me to view life differently, to live my life differently, is using my nice things. So for example, the fine china. If your grandma gave you some fine china and you're afraid to break it, the thing is, it's just gonna be boxed up. You're not gonna use it, and you're gonna have so much more of a beautiful sentiment when you're actually using it, when you have those memories of having actually used the thing that your grandmother might have used. So I think it's super beautiful to use those nice things. They're meant to be used, they're meant to be enjoyed, and you deserve it. This next one is kind of tied to the previous, and it's to actually dress up at home. So this is not just like using your nice things, but actually like do your hair or pluck your eyebrows or whatever it is that you need to do to be actually presentable. Generally, I like to wear dresses. I just feel comfortable in that, and I'll just be at the grocery store and they'll be like, oh, well, where are you going after this? Because I'll be like wearing a dress. Usually I wear dresses here in the home. I think it's kind of funny that we respond to people in that way when they're dressed up. Like you have to go somewhere to be dressed up, to feel good about yourself. And when I started to wear my nice clothes at home, what I was kind of doing without knowing it is kind of telling myself, I value myself enough to use the nice things because I should, because I deserve it. And instead of just like wearing whatever ugly clothes that are like torn or worn out at home because I don't want to damage them because they're supposed to be like for special occasions, I've kind of done away with that. I wear the nice clothes all the time. And especially with decluttering, I've removed all the things that don't really make me feel that great. So basically what that has done is that now the clothes that I do have are the ones that make me feel my best. And so basically I'm like wearing my best clothes all the time. And I think it's definitely done a lot for just making me feel better, making me feel more confident and just more presentable, because you're not going out somewhere. You are doing it for you. And doing that really, I think it shows a lot of self-love. And the more you show yourself that you love yourself, the more that you will start to love life and view your life differently. So I think it starts within. Donating and gifting good things. This is definitely one that I have had to kind of go into. Maybe I'll make a separate video all about giving, because I was definitely not a giver. So I've mentioned that I grew up poor in Mexico, and without realizing it, even though I'm here in the USA and I have all the things that I need, I still continued to have a scarcity mindset, and I still feared, I guess, that I wouldn't have my needs met. And it took a lot of work to be actually able to kind of remove that. But I think giving was the biggest factor, is actually letting go. Letting go of so many things throughout my home was what allowed me to be able to be open to receive and to live with that abundance mindset. So when you give things, don't just give all those things that are stained and torn and ripped. Well, really, you shouldn't really give those things. Just being able to give good things that other people can use. One of the things that it does too is it kind of just gives you that joy of giving. And when you start to develop a joy for giving, oh my goodness, the changes that will come in your life when you do that. Buy good quality. This is something that my dad would always tell me when I was younger, and he would say that he would buy the nice thing first so that he wouldn't have to buy it again. And I didn't actually used to do this in the very beginning. I used to buy a whole lot of things that were cheap because they were cheaper, and I thought that I was being smart because I could have more, but they were breaking down much faster, whether that be fast fashion or equipment tools for the house or anything that was cheaper. I thought I was getting a better deal, because if something were to break, or if it's just like worn out, then I can buy more and I can have more, and more is better, right? Not always. Not always, because the time that you're taking to replace those items, to fix those items, the space that they're taking, because now you have a whole bunch more, but really none of them are things that you really like or things that you get a lot of value from. I definitely try to buy good quality as much as possible. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to buy new. I often buy at thrift stores, buy used. You can also use online services to be able to bind used items. So there's a lot of different ways, and DIYs, for example, are a good way to have good quality without having to spend as much money. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend as much money, but also something that kind of ties to this is that it also means you have to say no to those items that are not a heck yes. So for example, if I'm going to the thrift store and I see this really beautiful dress and I really like it and it's only like $3-4, but it has like one little thing that I don't love about it, and it's not something that I can fix or that I can tailor easily, then I don't buy it. If it's not an absolute, then I'm not going to spend my money on that, because it's something that I'm going to eventually declutter because I didn't really love it to begin with. It's something that's probably going to be stashed in my closet or stashed wherever because I'm not actually going to be using it. And really it's only going to be there reminding me, hey, I'm still here. You need to clean me. You need to fix me. You need to get rid of me, whatever. It's almost like our stuff is saying things to us. It's taking like precious mind space, and it's not something that I want to spend my time and energy on. This is basically delayed gratification in action. This is saying, I know what it is that I want, but I'm able to say no right now because I believe that I can and will have it in the future if it is best for me. Number 6 is a powerful one. It kind of ties to using those nice things, but it's using those sentimental items. Those things that are so precious to you, that are so special to you, that you're afraid to use, that you're afraid to kind of put up on display because you're afraid that they might break, that they might get damaged. What you're basically saying to yourself is that you're not worthy enough to use those things. What a shame it is that they might be all boxed up, all put away, and you'll never actually get a chance to use those items, or that, God forbid, you die and somebody else just takes them and puts them on an estate sale. That might be kind of an extreme scenario, but I would rather know that I am using those things that are precious to me, that have sentimental value. And one of the things that decluttering has done, just kind of by consequence, is that as I remove all the junk from my house, as I'm removing the things that I don't use, I kind of end up with the more sentimental items. This next one is a biggie, and it's forgiving myself and letting go of mistake purchases. The reason that I say it's a big one, because after a few years of going through learning how to be more simple and intentional with my spending, I have definitely fallen into the trap of overthinking and then feeling guilty and ashamed when it is that I purchase something that I shouldn't have purchased. So a perfect example is that I wanted to have my kids swimming during the summertime so that they can learn how to swim. And I went to the YMCA and I didn't know that they had life jackets available there. So I went and bought my kids life jackets and I cut off the tags and I threw away the receipt because I just assumed that they would need life jackets, not knowing that they had life jackets available there for free. I'm like, dang it. And I bought this and I can't return it anymore. I mean, it's not an item that I can return, unfortunately. So, oh well. I learned my lesson. Next time, I will actually keep the tags on until I'm actually sure that they will in fact need them, or that this in fact fit, or that it works for me. And if not, if I made a mistake and it's something that I can't return, that I can't get my money back on, I learned my lesson and I can move on and let go. Scheduling and prioritizing your hobby or idle time. We live in such a busy, busy, busy time where we feel like we constantly have to do something and be productive. And when people call us like, hey, what have you been up to? What have you been doing? And I'm like, nothing. Why should I be if I just want to hang out and just chill? I mean, it's not a bad thing to have things on our schedule, to have things to be excited for. I think it's a good thing. We want to have something to look forward to, something that we feel like we're making progress on. But we don't always have to do something that's creating us money or that's productive. Sometimes we just really need the time to be able to ease back. Pursuing my version of minimalism, not someone else's ideal. Ooh, this is a big one, because I definitely am somebody that admires those people that live off a backpack and travel around in a van. But first of all, I have kids and I want them to have a community that they're surrounded by. I want for them to be able to be close to their family. So for me, that's something that's important. I don't see myself being like a backpacker or traveling around in a van with my kids. That's not my ideal. I still feel like there are probably individuals that would say, you have too much stuff, you shouldn't have this if you're a minimalist. And I think that those rules can be really strict because everybody has different values, different hobbies, different stages of life, and will require different items for those different stages. And that's okay. And I'm okay with that. And the more that I'm starting to practice it, the more I realize I start to see what it is that I'm comfortable with and kind of like my happy zone. The perfect example that I can give for this is that I have lately really started to have a lot more value for my hair and my skin's health. I used to be very, very addicted to makeup and I had tons of things related to that. And I've now really come to declutter pretty much everything except for mascara and eyebrow pencil and then my sunscreen. And that's pretty much it. But because of having removed a whole bunch of other things, I now value my skincare products, my hair care products. I also bleached my hair like a year and a half ago, which was a huge mistake. And so I'm starting to kind of grow it out, and I want to actually have healthy hair. I'm kind of on a healthy hair journey. And so I've purchased some Korean skincare and hair care products, as well as like a Japanese hair mask. It's really helped me, but I've got to admit, in the very beginning, when I was starting to kind of look into what can I do to restore my hair's health, my skin's health, I thought to myself, oh, I shouldn't be buying all these things. If I'm just like telling myself that I can't have those items because a real minimalist would only use their coconut oil and wouldn't actually buy a product, then I'm really living somebody else's ideal. And it's okay for me to buy certain items that are bringing me value, that are bringing me joy. That's something that I think takes some practice, is to figure out what are those things that you really value, and stop guilting yourself and stop shaming yourself if there's something that you do value spending money in, because it's something that brings you joy. Number 10 is kind of 2-in-1. The first part is to delete or unsubscribe from any accounts that make you feel lack, that make you feel less than, that constantly make you feel like you need to buy something, that make you feel like you need more, or that you're not enough. And it can happen with people that are very kind, very good people to begin with, but they might just have a life that appears to be more luxurious than you. And every time you see their videos or every time you see their posts or reels, you feel less than, you feel like you have less, you feel like you're not enough. If there are channels, accounts that you are following that are making you feel that way, delete them, hide them from notifications. If this channel is doing that for you, then put not interested, and it will not like recommend it to you. For any individual that you feel like you're watching is making you feel that way, cut that off, delete that right away, because that is not going to help you to view your life in a positive mindset. That is definitely going to have the opposite effect. And comparison is the thief of joy. So if you find yourself constantly comparing yourself to someone and feeling less than in a virtual realm, the easiest way to do that is to just delete them and hide the notifications. And then the second part might sound kind of harsh, and it's to limit association with the people that have a scarcity mindset. And the reason that I say it sounds harsh is because it can often be family members. It can also be friends that every time you tell them an idea, they say, oh, but this might not work, and this and this and this and this, and you should be careful, and you shouldn't do that, and I wouldn't do that if I were you. I'm not saying you need to cut those people off from your life completely. Sometimes family and friends, they mean well. They care for you, and they're just afraid that you might do something that might hurt you in the long run. Like, for example, if you're wanting to start a YouTube channel, they might just be afraid that you might be humiliated, or that you might spend too much money, or you might be wasting your time. Whatever the reason might be, they might be coming at it from a loving aspect, but they have a scarcity mindset. And so they might not be the people that are going to encourage you along and to actually help you in opening yourself up to see possibilities. If it's virtual, then I would definitely delete and unsubscribe and unfollow. But if it's like friends and family, maybe just limit those associations and try to find more people that are living in alignment with the way that you want to live. Quickly donate or toss consumable items that you know you don't like. This is something that has been a big one for me because I have always been somebody that would like force myself to use up something if I didn't like it, because it was that shame, it was that guilt, like, oh, I bought it and I shouldn't have bought it and it was a mistake and I don't like it, but I'm gonna use it because I wasted my money on it. The money was already spent. The money already left your wallet. For me personally, I do not want to continue to use this item that I'm not enjoying, that I'm like gagging every time I'm eating it if it's food, or that if it's like a candle and it was a scent that I hated and I'm feeling nauseous every single time that I light it, but I feel like I have to like use it up because I spent the money on it. I don't do that anymore. If there is an item that I know doesn't work for me, I will first try to find somebody that maybe can get that use out of it, that maybe can get some value out of it. And if I can't, then I'll toss it. If I made the mistake, I will learn my lesson and move on and get the thing that I love, because you know what? I'm worth it, and you are too. And last but not least is to give as much as you can. I know that I've already touched on this point before, but I wanted to make it its own separate point because it is something that has immensely impacted my life. Whenever we think of abundance and prosperity, we might easily fall for the trap of thinking that I need to have more and more and more for me. And that is what I want to steer you away from thinking, especially having a background as a ICU nurse, as a hospice nurse, dealing with people who are at the end stages of death. It has definitely given me such an appreciation of life and appreciation for the value of human beings in all stages of life, especially the most vulnerable. And when we can step outside ourselves and actually impact a life and see tears streaming down their face because they're so grateful for what you've done for them, the satisfaction that you get out of that will never compare to the physical items that you can bring into your home. There are so many things that I would love to have for myself. I would love to have the Dyson Airwrap. I would love to have a whole bunch of other products for myself, but realistically, I know that I'm never gonna spend that money on myself. And I can think to myself, why? Why is it so hard for me to like overthink and overthink and overthink like a $20 purchase for myself? But it's a lot easier to be able to help somebody else in need. And the reason, or the conclusion that I come to, is that because I am more intentional about the purchases that I make is the reason that I can bless other people, is the reason that I can give to other people or do things for other people, because maybe now I have the time to be able to do that, where before, because I was constantly like working to feed my addictions, feed my shopping addictions. And it's not all about just giving willy-nilly, because there's definitely going to be people that are going to want things from you just because they feel like they deserve it, or they've spent their money irresponsibly and they have a victim mindset and they want something from you as a result. So we have to be wise and we have to discern, but at the same time, I have definitely seen that giving has been the one thing that has impacted my mindset of abundance, because it changes you, as I mentioned before. It's not that we are gonna just magically poof, wave our magic wand and change somebody else's life. It's that it changes our mindset. And the more that we bless other people, the more we start to see that we have our needs met, that we have so much more than we ever need. And especially like when I worked as a nurse and when I worked in hospice, which are days that honestly sometimes I miss, is that when I saw people in tough situations, I felt so much more grateful for my life. And even before I was a nurse, like I volunteered at a homeless shelter for a while, and I did a lot of other volunteering where I met people that were struggling. Like they had some tough situations. And when I would come across those people and get to know them and hear their stories, and they would open up to me, I became so much more grateful for the life that I have. And we all have struggles. I had my struggles of my own and things that I've struggled with. I've mentioned that in my video, my love story, the traumas that I had faced. And the thing is, there's always going to be somebody that has it worse than you. And if we can start to be more grateful, open ourselves up to helping other people, we will realize how blessed we are and how fortunate we are to have the life that we have. And especially if you're like watching this on a TV, on a phone, like you have the means to be able to have a lot of things at your access that a lot of people don't have. So just realizing how blessed and how fortunate we are is really going to be one of the biggest factors. And I personally think it's the biggest, and it comes through giving, releasing, letting go so that you can receive. I just want to encourage you and remind you that those physical items will never mean as much as those connections that you make with people. That those things are not things that you shouldn't pursue or that you should feel guilty for. We should treat ourselves. We should care for ourselves like a prince, like a princess. But at the same time, it's not all about us. And if we do make it all about us and we always have the things that we want, then we're not going to be happy. We're not going to be happy because we are meant to have connection and love. And the more that we give love, the more we receive love. So if you feel lonely, if you're struggling emotionally, if you're going through tough times, I heavily recommend stepping outside yourself and looking at how you can give love to other people. And I assure you that it will have such a beautiful, beautiful effect in your life. So that's all I had to share for today. I hope that this video has been helpful for you, and stay tuned for the ways to romanticize your life, because they definitely kind of tie hand in hand and I think have made a huge impact in just making me a much happier individual. So I hope that they'll be helpful to you. Just subscribe and hit that notification bell so that you won't miss when I post that video. If there are any other videos that you'd like to see from me, please let me know down in the comments or send me an email. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.